Hey guys, Kurt here, and today, how to connect to your soul. So here's what inspired this video. Somebody left a comment on one of my YouTube videos, which is great, by the way. I love when people do this. I love this because it's so useful. We can learn so much from confusion, basically, right? We can learn so much from misunderstandings. We can look at the misunderstanding and talk about why it is a misunderstanding and learn something from it. And I don't remember what video it was, but somewhere in the video, I did my little spiel about how you're a three-part triune being: body, mind, soul, right? And where you came from actually is the soul. That's where you came from, and that's where you're going to go back to. And technically, it's not really that you came from there or you're going to return to there. That's what you is, the soul. That's what you is, right? That's what you is. Well, anyway, I was explaining that when you look out there in the general spiritual community, you see people talking about things like, you know, telepathic abilities and astrology and tarot readings and the law of attraction and energy portals and Reiki and Kundalini experiences and clearing your chakras and things like this. And these things are all valid things. They are real things. They are legitimate. I simply wish to point out to people that those things are not actually spiritual. And if you were doing things that are actually spiritual, it would also make those things work better. But what are those things? Well, you are body, mind, and spirit, right? Those other things are mind things. And to be clear, the mind is really what controls the astral body. You are a three-part triune being: physical body, astral body, soul. The astral body is chakras, metaphysical energy, right? It is controlled by the mind. And so the astral body is where you get into things like Reiki, chakras, metaphysical energy work, telepathy, astrology. The soul is something else. The soul is not metaphysical. It is not. It is not. It is source. It works on no system. The astral body works on a system of duality: positive, negative, feel good, feel bad, love, fear, more, less, here, there, past, future, duality, right? The physical body and the astral body. The astral body is what anchors your physical body to your soul, which is you. The soul, you, that's what you is. And that's not poor English. I'm wording it that way on purpose because that's what this video is all about. I want to talk about what you is. And what this person said, and again, this is awesome that this person said this. That's really how I feel about this person's comment, because we can learn a lot from this person's comment. What they said was, Reiki is all about establishing a connection to the soul. And so they were basically disagreeing with me and saying that, and I don't even think that they actually, if you looked at the whole entire comment, I don't think that they were actually disagreeing with me. I think that they just did not understand what I was saying. But I'm taking one piece out of what they said and using it as a springboard to talk about something that's useful, right? That's what I'm doing in this video. And what they said was, Reiki is all about establishing a connection to the soul. And that's, I think, where this person's confusion was. And a lot of people make that same mistake. They're using a technique like Reiki or Kundalini activation or something like that to connect to the soul. Well, there's one problem with that, and it's a big problem. You can't connect to your soul. You are your soul. That's what you is. What you is not is something that would be able to connect to your soul. So what's going on here? When this person says, Reiki is all about establishing a connection to the soul, what's really going on here? There's the soul, which is the real, actual you, and then there's another you? Well, there's not two of you, is there? And this is the whole problem in the so-called general spiritual community. The approach that they take when they employ these tools, very fine tools, very useful for a lot of people. Again, Reiki, telepathy, right? Energy work, metaphysical energy work, astrology, all those things. No problem. No problem. But those things are not spiritual. They are metaphysical, which is the astral body. And here's the thing, guys. If you get out of your mind, if you stop deriving your sense of self from the mind and start just being the soul, which is what you really is, all that other stuff starts to work better. Astrology, Reiki, whatever it is. Because what is the soul apart from being you? What is it other than that? Well, it's pure consciousness. It's consciousness itself. That's what you is. Pure consciousness. That's the soul. You're not separate from the soul. If you were separate from the soul, then you could establish a connection to it. But you is the soul. You guys, this video is already almost 8 minutes long, and it doesn't need to be. Why is it? Well, here's the thing. If there wasn't what is in the spiritual community, true spiritualism, not the pop culture spiritualism or fast food spiritualism, as I like to call it, which again, I'm just calling it that, but all it really is the general message from the so-called spiritual community that these other things that I've been talking about, which are actually metaphysical, all those other practices, it's the message from the general spiritual community that those are spiritual things. Those are not spiritual things. You are spiritual. You is a soul. You is a spirit. It's consciousness. That's it. That's it. That's all the soul is. That's all the soul is. That's spiritual. And when you embrace true spiritualism, all that other stuff works better. Well, anyway, the reason this video is now 9 minutes long is because everybody has been conditioned to believe that they are their mind. It's the human condition. That's how everybody lives on this planet. They live through their mind, through their personality, through their ego, whatever you want to call it. Now, if we did not do that, then this video could be about 5 seconds long, because all I would have to do is say, you is a soul. That's what you is. The end. That takes about 5 seconds. The problem is, and the reason this video is going to be more than 10 minutes long, is because there's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of confusion. And it takes 10 minutes to explain why this is confusion. And again, it's nobody's fault. I'm not criticizing anybody. It's the human condition, guys. Everybody has the same conditioning. I had to deal with it. You guys are having to deal with it. It's just the way humans have done things for so long. And you don't realize you're doing it. It's not anybody's fault. But that's why you get a comment like this. Reiki is all about establishing a connection to the soul. You can't establish a connection to the soul. You already are your soul. Well, yeah, but there's no yeah, but anything. Who is saying yeah, but Who would be saying that? Your mind, your personality, retained thought and emotional patterns. And that is the human condition. That is where people derive their sense of self from. You're a three-part triune being, physical body, astral body, soul. But there is a fourth alien element that doesn't quite belong, but we all have one, and it's called an ego, a personality. And if you let the ego run amok, if you let it get really big, it becomes what you could call a pain body. And I don't know that this is where that term came from, but the first time I ever heard that term, it was from Eckhart Tolle, who is the author of The Power of Now. And this fourth alien element attaches itself to your astral body, and these are these retained thought and emotional patterns. And these patterns continue to tell you that what the self is, what you is, are said patterns. And that's the human condition, living through the mind. And so when you believe that you is the mind, then it seems like Reiki is all about establishing a connection to the soul. I, the mind, as long as you believe that's what you is, I need to establish a connection to my soul. You can't. You can't. As long as what you're saying you is your mind. You can't. The mind cannot. You are already your soul. You just have to see that this is going on, guys. Here's another thing. Anybody who peddles the notion that you can use Reiki as a way to establish a connection to the soul, find another Reiki teacher. Because I happen to know for a fact that they do not teach that in Reiki. Nobody who is teaching you true spiritualism is going to tell you a thing like that. You can't connect to your soul. And if you're trying to do that, that is some kind of a technique. I actually had somebody a long time ago, when I explained all of this to them, tell me, well, that's a really interesting technique. When I explained to them that you're a three-part triune being and that the way it functions is physical body, astral body, soul. The astral body works on a system of duality, feel good, feel bad, positive, negative, past, future, good, bad, right, wrong. The soul works on no system. It's just consciousness. It's single. It's source. It's absolute. It has no opposite. Everybody knows this is true. This is empirical. I don't have to prove what I'm saying, right? It's 1 + 1 = 2. Anybody can see that 1 + 1 is 2. These are ancient teachings. What I teach isn't complicated, guys. It's not, and that's why it's so effective, because it's really back to basics stuff that I teach. And this person said, well, that's a really interesting technique. You got to get out of your mind and align with your soul, which is the true self. And they said, well, that's an interesting technique. It's not a technique. You are the soul. That's not a technique. Using something like Reiki as a way to establish a connection to your soul, that's a technique. And by the way, it isn't going to work. You already are the soul. You already are you. There's not two of you. I got to love myself. I have to be good to myself. I just have to have a good relationship to myself. You can't. There's not two of you. And if you're using a sentence where it sounds like there's two of you, I have to have a good relationship with myself, what's really going on? There's not two of you. What's really going on? It's the personality. It's the ego. It's the mind-identified sense of self. So there's the you, which is the soul, which is what you really are, and then there's your personality, your ego. And when that's going on, yeah, there seems to be two of you, but one of them is an illusion. That's true spiritualism. And again, nothing wrong with those other things. Those other things are great. You want to read your horoscope? Do it. And I know some really great astrologers. But all that stuff, it's not spiritualism, guys. It's metaphysics. It's metaphysics. It's of the mind. It's of the mind. And also, those things work so much better when you make your foundation true spiritualism. Put your foundation in place first. Be a spiritual person first. Get right with what you really is first. And you'll live an amazing life. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.